Yo, what's going on, people? Dogysamich here for yet another episode of some SBRO stuff. We are finally going to start delving into some of the juicier topics that led to the creation of this series to begin with, aka what my friends have been screaming and whining about. Today, we are going to talk about placing bombs. I know that sounds pretty simple, and it is really simple in the grand scheme of things, but it's really important because it's the foundation of what you are going to do throughout the game. I mean, the series is called Bomberman for a reason. Well, where do we start? We start in the same place we always do. We're going to start either in a cross or in an alley because those are the two places you are going to place bombs. Playing on Power Zone, playing on Standard, playing on Speed Zone, playing even Battle 64. There are only crosses and alleys, right? Right. You place a bomb in a cross, it goes off in all four directions. It'll hit anything in range in all four directions, including another bomb, another player, yada yada, so on and so forth. We kind of went over those. Another important thing to consider is because it is sitting in a cross, that means it is prone to getting hit by another explosion in all four directions. That's opposed to a bomb being in an alley where, because in this scenario the top and bottom are blocked off by pillars, the explosion can only go in two directions. A little more contained. In fact, when you are starting off, when you are casually playing and you're learning Bomberman or playing it at a party or whatever, you'll see somebody do this and you might think it's a mistake because, like, why would you only want the bomb to go off in two directions when you can have it go off in four directions, right? Four is bigger than two, right? Well, there's reasons why you would want to put a bomb in an alley. We'll get to it a little bit later, I promise. But it is pretty important to know that it's okay to do this and know when to do this. So knowing that we can place bombs in crosses or alleys, the only other thing to consider afterwards, or I guess the next thing to consider, I won't say only, excuse me, the next thing to consider is placing multiple bombs. And even though you might start getting into placing like bombs like that or stuff like that, we're going to compound this into something that's really digestible. We're going to talk about when you place bombs spaced and when you place bombs together. Now, being able to place bombs spaced in crosses is one of the most important skills that you can have at any level of Bomberman. If you've seen the game before, if you've played the game before, you can already imagine why, because being able to have something like this is pretty useful. Covers a lot of space, even if you don't know where to stand to get away from it. Surprise, it's an alley. But there's a lot of area that you cannot stand in when you have explosions going off like that. Nice for setting up chain reactions. That's what I'm getting at. Alternatively, you can also set bombs spaced in alleys. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're looking at that and you're like, why would I bother with something like that when if I wanted to set an explosion off on this row, I can just put one like right here and it'll cover the same space in one fell swoop. There will be times where you want to do that, right? Or you want an explosion just to go off on this row. But pay attention to the explosion when we set them spaced and have multiple bombs again. See how it takes a while for it to get down there because it's a chain reaction from the first bomb, the second one, the third one, fourth, so on and so forth. One of the things that, if you haven't picked up on, we'll talk about later, a little bit later in this video, a little bit later in the series, is the fact that when a bomb hits another bomb, it delays the explosion. So you could set a bomb to delay an explosion. That's just a general statement. If you set a bomb in an alley, You know the explosion is only going in 2 directions. Therefore, you can get out of the way. So setting bombs in alleys can be used defensively when you need to get away from an explosion. Also, and this is a little bit tricky, this is a little bit of a player preference thing. Pointing this out again, with how slow the explosion is, you can actually set off delayed chain reaction. Let me just spit the whole thing out. By setting bombs in an alley, maybe placing a couple bombs down here, which will still allow you to move around this entire area. Something you wouldn't be able to do if you had bombs and crosses. I'm kind of making this a little bit longer than I need to in that point, because we're going to move down to the last part of this. Hey, this one's actually short. Talked about bombs being spaced. That means bombs can also go together. There is so much versatility, so many things you can do, so many different options to explore from being able to do something like this. And again, this is another thing where if you see it in the beginning, your friends running around, you see them do something like that, you're like, oh, they kind of panic. They're not really a Bomberman player. They misspaced their bombs, and starting off, that might be the case. But when you start putting bombs together, it'll allow you to do stuff like so. Put 2 bombs closely together, starting in a cross an alley, turn around and punch it, and you have 2 bombs and 2 crosses while you're going the other direction. That's one thing you can do with it. Start covering a lot of space like so. And that's just tip of the iceberg for what you can do on the offensive side. Because again, it's as simple as this game looks on the surface. No, there's layers to the depth and everything, as some people would say. There's ways you can defend yourself with this. I've already showed you what happens if you place the bombs in alleys. Well, who says you have to place them in an alley? If you're running away from an explosion, like so, and you know you have just a moment before everything starts going off, you might want to drop a couple of bombs behind you to ensure that you can get around the corner. And really, that's everything I wanted to lead off with so far. Telling me to hurry up? I guess it's about time for us to go. So let's wrap this up real quick. These kinds of topics I'll be coming back to give you some more information a little later on. I don't want to just cram everything into one. But for today, talked about placing bombs in some crosses, placing bombs in some alleys, talked about placing some bombs spaced away from each other in crosses and in alleys. We started talking about what happens when you put them together. And those are just some things to think about. Things to work on. Again, that's something you want to be able to do. Space some bombs in some crosses, be able to juke and jive with it, and take a lot of space. Game saying we're out of time, so I guess I'm up out of here. Catch you next time. Peace.